Hello and welcome! It's Bethworld here, and listen, I know today's topic might not sound like the most gripping thing in the world, right? Family law, paperwork, courts, ugh. It's heavy stuff, I get it. But trust me on this one. Yeah, if you're dealing with family court matters, especially here in the UK, understanding this thing called a Section C79 application, well, that could be a real game changer. We're talking child custody, contact orders, financial disputes, all that really important stuff that can turn your world upside down. Look, I've been in loads of situations over the years, talking to people who are going through some really tough times. And let me tell you, navigating the family court system, it's no walk in the park, believe me. That's why I wanted to make this video. I'm going to break down this whole Section C79 thing step by step. We'll look at real-life examples, the lot. No legal jargon, I promise. Just straight talking advice to help you understand exactly what's what. So grab yourself a cuppa or whatever you fancy, get comfy, and let's get stuck in, shall we? Right, first things first, yeah? Before you go diving headfirst into filling out forms and all that, you've got to figure out if you actually need to apply for a change in the first place. And that means asking yourself one big question. Has something major changed since the last court order? And I don't mean like your ex got a new haircut, all right? I'm talking big, life-altering stuff. For example, let's say you had this child arrangement order in place, right? Said your ex could see your little one every weekend. Sounds straightforward enough, yeah? But then things change. Maybe your ex starts missing visits, or they're always late, or they're just not acting right when they're with the kid. And it's starting to mess with your child's head. They're acting out, they're emotional. It's just not the happy, healthy environment you want for them. Now, this is where that Section C79 application comes in. See, it's basically a way of saying to the court, look, things have changed, and the current arrangement just isn't working anymore. It's about putting your child's well-being first and asking the court to step in and make things right. But it's not a decision to be taken lightly, you know. Going back to court can be stressful, it can be expensive, and it can drag on for ages. So before you do anything, it's important to really think about whether applying for a change is absolutely necessary. Have a good, hard think about what's changed, why it's a problem, and what you hope to achieve by going back to court. Sometimes it might be possible to sort things out without getting the courts involved, you know? Maybe a good old-fashioned chat with your ex is all that's needed, or maybe you need to get a mediator involved to help you see eye to eye. But if talking's gotten you nowhere, and you're convinced that this change is affecting your child, then yeah, applying for a Section C79 might be the way to go. It's about protecting your child, and sometimes that means taking things to the next level. So, you've made the big decision, you've thought it through, talked it over, and you're certain that applying for a change is the right thing to do. Now it's time to tackle the dreaded paperwork. Don't worry, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. It's not as scary as it sounds. The main thing you'll need is this form called a C79. Catchy name, right? Basically, it's just a fancy way of saying application to change a court order. You can get hold of this form from a couple of places. The family court will have them, or you can be dead clever and download it straight from the gov.uk website. Technology, eh? Now, I'm not going to lie, this form can be a bit daunting. It's got all these boxes and sections, and it can feel a bit like you're back in school filling out exam papers, but honestly, it's not rocket science. The form's designed to help you explain your situation clearly and make sure the court has all the info it needs. First off, you'll need to give all the basic details, like your name, your address, all that jazz. Then you'll need to dig out the details of the original court order, things like the case number and the date it was issued. It's like a little trip down memory lane, but not always the best memories, eh? The most important part of the form is where you get to tell your side of the story. This is your chance to explain what's changed, why it's a problem, and what you want the court to do about it. Be clear, be concise, and don't be afraid to go into detail. This is your chance to be heard, so make it count. Remember, honesty is key here, yeah? Don't try to exaggerate things or make stuff up. The court needs the straight facts to make a fair decision. And trust me, they've seen it all before, so you're not going to shock them. Just be honest, be respectful, and focus on what's best for your child. Now, I know this all sounds like a lot to take in, but honestly, once you get started, it's not as bad as it seems. And if you do get stuck, don't panic. There are loads of resources out there to help you. You can get free advice from charities like Citizens Advice, or you can even talk to a solicitor if you need more help. Don't struggle on your own if you don't have to, yeah? Right, you've battled through the form, poured your heart out, and now you've got this stack of papers staring back at you. Feels good, doesn't it? But hold your horses, yeah? Before you can breathe a sigh of relief, there's one more hurdle to jump. Actually submitting the darn thing. Don't worry, I'm going to walk you through it. First things first, you need to make sure you've got everything the court needs. That means making copies of everything, and I mean everything. We're talking the C79 form itself, any evidence you've got, more on that later. The lot. Trust me, the last thing you want is for your application to be delayed because you've forgotten to photocopy a form. Been there. Got the t-shirt. Once you've got your copies sorted, you need to send the whole shebang off to the family court. Now, you can't just send it to any old court, mind you. Each court has its own little patch, so you need to make sure you're sending it to the right one. Don't worry, you can find all that info on the gov.uk website. They've got it all laid out for you. Now here's the bit that might make you wince a bit, the court fee. Yeah, sadly, it's not free to apply for a change to a court order. The fees can vary, so it's best to check the latest prices on the gov.uk website. It's an extra expense you could do without, I know, but it's just one of those things. But don't despair. If you're on a low income or you receive certain benefits, you might be able to get help with the court fee. You might even be able to get it waived completely. It's called fee exemption, and it's definitely worth looking into if you're struggling financially. Once you've got your application, your copies and your fee, or your fee exemption, you're good to go. You can either post it all off to the court, or if you're feeling brave, you can hand deliver it yourself. Just make sure you get a receipt as proof you've submitted it. And then you wait. It's not the most exciting part of the process, I know, but it's all part of the journey. The court will get back to you eventually, I promise. And then it's on to the next step. Right, the waiting game is over. You've submitted your application, you've been to court and back, probably a few times, and now it's the day of the hearing. I know it's enough to make anyone feel a bit sick with nerves. But honestly, it's not as scary as it sounds. First things first, what even is a court hearing? Basically, it's a chance for everyone involved, you, your ex, any other people involved in the case, to come together and present their side of the story to a judge. It's all very official with robes and wigs and whatnot, but don't let that intimidate you. At the end of the day, the judge is just a person trying to make the best decision for your child. Now, courtrooms can be intimidating places. Lots of people milling about, legal jargon flying around left, right, and center. It's easy to feel out of your depth. But remember, you've got every right to be there. This is about your child's future, and your voice deserves to be heard. When it's your turn to speak, take a deep breath and try to stay calm. The judge will ask you questions about your application and why you think a change to the court order is needed. Just be honest, be respectful, and explain things in your own words. You don't need to be a lawyer to get your point across. And listen, it's okay to get emotional. This is emotional stuff, right? But try not to let your emotions get the better of you. The calmer and more collected you are, the better you'll be able to present your case. It's important to remember that the other parties involved, most likely your ex, will also have their say. They'll have their own solicitor and they'll present their own evidence. Listen to what they have to say and be prepared to answer any questions the judge might have. Now, I know this all sounds a bit intense, and it is, but remember, the court hearing is a chance for everyone to have their say and for the judge to get a clear picture of what's going on. It's about finding the best possible outcome for your child, and that's what matters most, right? Well, you've done it. You faced the courtroom, you spoke your truth, you've answered the tough questions. Now comes the bit where you hold your breath and wait for the judge to make their decision. It can be nerve-wracking, right? All those what-ifs swirling around your head. But listen, whatever the outcome, just remember, you've done everything you can to protect your child. And that's what truly matters. Now, the judge has a big responsibility here, right? They've heard all the evidence, listened to everyone's arguments, and now they've got to make a decision that's in the best interests of your child. It's not a decision they take lightly, believe me. Sometimes the judge might make their decision straight away, right there in the courtroom. Other times they might need a bit longer to mull things over, in which case they'll reserve their judgment. That basically means you'll have to wait a bit longer. Could be days, could be weeks, to find out the outcome. I know, more waiting, right? But what can you do? If the judge decides that a change to the original court order is needed, they'll issue a new order. This new order could be a small tweak to the existing one, or it could be a complete overhaul. It all depends on the specifics of your case and what the judge thinks is best for your child. For example, let's say you applied for a change to the contact arrangements because your ex kept missing visits. The judge might decide to change the order to specify that contact should happen at a different time or place, or they might even decide that supervised contact is necessary. It really all depends on the individual circumstances. Now, it's important to remember that the judge's decision is legally binding. That means everyone has to stick to it, no ifs, ands, or buts. If one party doesn't follow the order, they could be held in contempt of court, which is a fancy way of saying they could be in big trouble. I know it's a lot to take in, but the main thing to remember is this. The judge's decision is all about what's best for your child. They're not taking sides, they're not playing favorites, they're just trying to make sure your child is safe, happy, and well cared for. Right, the judge has spoken, the gavel has dropped, and you've got your answer. Now what? Well, it all depends on the decision, doesn't it? Let's break it down, shall we? If the judge ruled in your favor, brilliant. It means they agreed that a change was needed, and they've issued a new court order that reflects that. Take a moment to celebrate, you deserve it, but remember, this isn't about winning or losing. It's about doing what's right for your child, and now you can start to move forward with a court order that hopefully makes life a bit easier for everyone involved. But what if the judge didn't rule in your favor? Well, I'm not going to lie, it's going to be disappointing. You might feel angry, frustrated, even heartbroken, and that's okay. Allow yourself time to process those emotions. Don't bottle them up, yeah? But here's the thing. It's not necessarily the end of the road if you genuinely believe that the judge's decision isn't in your child's best interests, or if you think there's been a procedural error or something like that. You can appeal the decision. Now, appeals are tricky, and they're not always successful. You need strong grounds to appeal, and you'll need to act quickly. The best thing to do is to talk to a solicitor, get some proper legal advice. They'll be able to look at the specifics of your case, tell you if you've got a leg to stand on, and guide you through the appeals process. It's not an easy road, but sometimes it's the right one. But even if you decide not to appeal, it's important to remember that the situation isn't set in stone forever. Life's not like that, is it? Things change, circumstances change, people change. And if, down the line, you find yourself back in a situation where the current court order just isn't working anymore, well, you know what to do. You've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. The main thing is you're doing everything you can to create a stable, loving environment for your child. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters, right? And there you have it. We've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? From deciding whether to apply, to filling out forms, to facing the courtroom, we've gone through it all. Listen, I know it's a lot to take in, and it can feel overwhelming at times, but trust me, you've got this. Remember, family law can be a right minefield, and it's always best to get proper legal advice if you're unsure about anything. Don't be afraid to reach out for help, whether it's from a solicitor, a charity like Citizens Advice, or even just a friend or family member. You don't have to go through this alone. I really hope this video has been helpful. If you've got any questions, just pop them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. And remember, no matter what you're going through, you're doing a great job. Keep fighting for your kids, keep your chin up, and never give up hope.